Hello and welcome to Ballard Designs 101 series. My name is Roger, your host. You know, there's nothing quite as charming as a few thoughtfully curated, well-placed, and more importantly, correctly shaded lamps in a room. It can bring warmth to a dark corner, accent a favorite piece of furniture, or bring critical light to a task at hand. But just like ill-fitting clothes can ruin the outfit, an ill-fitting shade can ruin the overall look of the lamp and perhaps the room. In today's episode, we're sharing our best tips on how to choose the perfect lampshade. And remember, like and subscribe to the Ballard Designs YouTube channel. Post your comments, your questions, your decorating dilemmas. You never know, you might give us an idea for an upcoming episode. And with that, let's talk lampshades. Before you can go shopping for the perfect lampshade, you'll need to complete these 3 easy steps. Number 1 is understand the anatomy of your lamp. Number 2, measure your lamp without a shade. And finally, number 3, decide how you want your lamp to illuminate the room. To get started, let's talk about the anatomy of both a lampshade and a lamp. They typically feature 3 standard fitters or ways they're attached to the lamp. There's spider, bulb clip, and Uno. A table lamp designed to receive a spider fitter is comprised of 6 components. From the bottom, there's base, neck, saddle, socket, harp, and finial. And don't worry, there's not going to be a pop quiz at the end of this. We're simply using this list as a reference point later in the video. The next step in correctly fitting your lamp for a lampshade is measuring for height and width. Measure the base from the bottom to the top of the socket. Our example here is 30 inches high. Next, width. Measure the widest part of your lamp base. If it's round, measure across the middle. If it's square, measure diagonally. As you can see here, our lamp is 10 inches wide. As a general rule, your lampshade should be 1/3 the total height of your lamp, which means your base should be 2/3 the total height of the lamp. The width of your shade should be roughly twice the width of your base. In our example here, it's 10 inches, which means that our lampshade will be 20 inches wide. The final step in choosing the perfect lampshade is deciding how you want the lamp to illuminate the room. The material from which the lampshade is constructed will determine how much light it gives off. Opaque or solid shades will direct light up and down, and a textured shade like wicker is going to produce a dappled effect. Now that we understand the basic anatomy of our lamp, how to measure, and the purpose for our lamp, it's time for the fun part, fitting shades. All right, here we are. We have some beautiful lamp examples and some lovely shades that we're going to be using to fit onto this classic gourd lamp. We're going to be applying those principles that we learned in the earlier segments, and we're going to start by measuring this particular lamp. And also, I wanted to point out something else about it. Because the lamp is round, we're going to be going with a round lampshade, but if this were a square or a rectangle or something angular, we would probably go with a rectangle lampshade instead. So just keep that in mind when you're considering your lamp. Let's go ahead and get our measurements. The first thing is height. So the height is going to be from the surface of the table to the top of the socket. And that's 20 inches. And if you recall, you want your shade to be 1/3 the total height of this lamp base. So this is 20 inches. So we're looking for a lampshade that's 10 inches, which is going to bring the lamp itself up to about here. Okay, so that's what we're looking for on our height. And when we talk about height, we're talking about the side panel of the shade, which is on this particular shade right here, which is 12 inches. But we'll come back to that in just a moment. The other part of the lamp we're going to measure is the width, which is this part. And because it's round, we're measuring from side to side. So doing that, this too is 10 inches. And that's going to give us the diameter of the shade that we're going to be choosing, how big a round it is at the bottom, and you multiply by 2. So that's 10 inches times 2, 20 inches. So we're going to be looking for a shade that has a 20-inch diameter to fit on this. But the first thing we're going to do before we move on to fitting the shade is put a harp on it. And if you remember in the anatomy of a lamp, this is your saddle. And the saddle actually is where you seat the harp. Kind of makes sense. It's a saddle. So we're going to get a harp. And the harp measurement is typically the same as the side panel of your shade. This is a 10-inch harp. If you haven't used one before, squeeze it. Fit it into your saddle on both sides, and it will snap into place, and then slide the caps down to lock it. And that's a fully saddled lamp and ready to receive a lampshade. One of the great things about Ballard Designs and shopping for your lampshades here is that they are typically sized like this. You'll have an 18, a 16, and a 14. So it's really easy. There are some exceptions, but this just makes shopping for shades much easier and fitting them for your particular lamp. So keeping in mind, we're looking for a 10-inch side panel to fit on our 10-inch harp. Let's measure these shades. This one, as we measured earlier, this is right at 12 inches. And again, it's not an exact science. It's really a matter of what you see and what you feel is with balance when you're putting this together. 1 to 2 inches off of 10 inches is still going to work on this particular lamp. So 11, 12 inches is okay. So this shade will probably work. We'll see in just a moment. And then we're going to measure our diameter. We're looking for 20 inches. This one's 18, again, about 2 inches off. Let's put that on there and see what it looks like. There we go. And the final step, of course, probably goes without saying. In order to secure this lampshade, to keep it from falling off, you have to add a finial. And that's what this is. And it has a little bit of a rocking motion here. You can adjust that so that it's level. And so this is a good fit for this particular board. The important thing here is to hide all of your hardware. So let me show you how that looks if you have it too high. And you're seeing the hardware, you don't want to have that happen. But make sure your lamp shade comes down far enough. So looks great. Let's try this one, just a little bit smaller. Again, I think that looks fantastic. Still works. This one is very close to ideal for this lamp base based on the measurements that we shared earlier. And finally, I'm pretty sure that this lampshade is going to be too small for this lamp. So we're going to put it on there just to get a visual. Absolutely. We can see the hardware underneath. You totally can see your socket and your saddle, and it doesn't have the right proportion to the base. So it looks a little bit like squished, if you will, and small. For most of our lamps, we recommend an empire-shaped shade, also called a taper. It's a beautiful shade. It's, I guess, what you would call in the lampshade world a universal fit. It works on just about any lamp. Just a beautiful addition to a lamp base. And it's available in pleated shades like this, hardback. Have this example here. Again, empire shape with a taper with a different fabric covering on it. So we've just finished the technical part of fitting the lamp with a proper size shade. I think that when it comes to doing this process, this is really the fun part. This is where you are thinking about your room and how you want the room to be illuminated, or perhaps the task of the lamp, whether you're using it to read a book or you're using it to illuminate the entire room or maybe accent a piece of art on the wall. So there's some options. So here's the lamp that we've been working on and the shade that we've settled on. And we've got a bulb in here, so I'm going to go ahead and turn that on so you can kind of see how the light comes through it. And this would be a lamp shade that you would use for ambient lighting in the room, because it's gonna throw a lot of light through here. So let me show you something else about this with light bulbs. Right now I've put a clear bulb in here, and I'm gonna add a shade with a little less texture to it. Show you what happens. If you notice there's a shadow here on the shade, that is because of the bulb. We're using a clear bulb, and that is one of the downsides of using a clear bulb with a lampshade like this. And you can remedy that issue if you don't like it by changing the bulb. We're going to put in an opaque white LED. And you can see that it softens the light and eliminates the shadow. And while we're at it and we're talking about lines, the seam of your lampshade, of course, is something you want to try to hide. So I usually turn that to the wall or into a corner so that it can't be seen. Speaking about these lampshades and looking at how the light comes through, this has a very clean, modern look. This is just beautiful, actually. I'm going to show you how a pleated shade looks. Just beautiful texture. Actually, the light coming through creates the lights and darks, which adds a lot of visual interest to the lamp. It actually really dresses up this gourd lamp, which is a classic shape and a classic neutral color, but really adds some visual interest to the lamp and still gives you a lot of light coming out from below and above. We mentioned in an earlier segment too about dappled light through a woven shade, and this beautiful example here will actually give you that effect. Notice the light can get through this. And this one, yep, it's given us almost perfect sight line here and hiding the hardware. And we can see the dappled light through the shade. We can still see the bulb. Another example where we'd want to use an opaque bulb, and probably not clear because it's going to really throw a lot of blinding light out through those holes. So here's another great example, a shade that I like actually for using for accent purposes, or this would be a great task lamp, if you will, for reading. All of your light actually is coming out of the bottom of the shade. This is a metal shade, so it's opaque and no light can get through it. It also is closed at the top, so you don't have any reflective light. And here's another great example of an opaque lampshade. This is a foil-lined, you can see that under there, it's beautiful gold foil, fabric-covered shade. One of my favorites, and the reason is because the light is completely thrown through the bottom and the top of the shade. This creates some beautiful reflective light, which is soft. It's a wonderful way to illuminate an entire room. And you also have this great light coming down, which illuminates surfaces, perhaps the top of a table, books or other accessories you may have out. So this is also a great example of a fantastic lampshade, perfectly fit onto this lamp. If you notice, we've got all of our hardware covered. You cannot see the harp, you can't see the socket, and you still see your beautiful lamp base and shape. This lamp is also a great example of a base that does not have your technical neck, that we learned about in the anatomy of a lamp. You notice here it's connected directly, our saddle is seated actually directly onto our lamp base. So in this case, it's okay if your lampshade comes down a little further onto the lamp body itself. You don't have to worry about it. Your imaginary line can be about here. You just don't want to swallow your lamp base and completely cover it up like this, but to come down just enough, and that's probably about an inch down, to make sure that that hardware and socket is not visible when you're sitting in a chair next to it or, looking across the room at it. And as you can see, there's many beautiful choices when it comes to choosing lampshades for your particular lamp. It actually can be lots of fun. Once you understand the anatomy of a lamp, the measurements of your lamp, and the purpose for which you'll be using your lamp in your house, it's a matter of personal choice. Whatever feels right for you, that's what's going to work in your particular home. And that's it. You now have all the basic knowledge you need to pick the perfect lampshade for your lamp. All it takes is a bit of measuring, a clear purpose for your lamp, and a selection of high-quality shades that you'll find here in Ballard Designs. So go forth with confidence and know that we're here to help you, whether by phone, online, or at one of our beautiful Ballard Design stores near you. And let us know you're out there. Like and subscribe to the Ballard Designs YouTube channel. And for other decorating information not covered in this episode, go to ballarddesigns.com and click on our How to Decorate blog. Until next time, I'm Roger. Happy decorating.